is an exclusive presentation of Jessup Broadcasting, the sports leader in Southeast Georgia.
World famous. The world famous Butch and Bob Show.
Yes, it is now time for the world-famous Butch and Bob Show right here on Big Dog Country, WIFO-FM in Jessup, 2 minutes after 8 o'clock. And, Bob, you doing well?
Doing well.
Doing well, huh? All right, well, on the Zoom computer with us right now is State Senator Bill Werkheiser, live from under the Golden Dome. Is that right, Bill? Bill, are you there?
I'm here.
Okay, you're there. Okay. All right, State Senator Bill Werkheiser with us this morning, live from Atlanta, Georgia. Take it away, Bob.
Okay, Bill, first of all, how you doing?
Doing good.
Doing good.
It's been a busy couple of days. As you probably heard, Monday we were here right before midnight, trying to get everything over to the Senate.
Yeah, crossover day took place, so how did that go? So I guess it was a hectic day.
It went good, very organized. So I don't know what the final count was, but got a lot of stuff over, and there's a few, couple of big items we didn't get, but for the most part, pretty good session, I think.
What big item didn't they get? I was curious. You can't throw that caveat out there and tell us what the big item was that didn't get.
Well, I think there was 3 that kept bouncing back and forth between rules, and they kept trying to fix it. But the sports betting app, which I was going to be a no on anyway, they just realized they did not have the votes. So, and that's kind of typical. They don't bring votes to the floor that they know are going to fail. I bet you we haven't had 20 measures defeated since I've been in office 7 years. But every once in a while it happened. We did have one fail, but so that did not go. Kind of a controversial bill within our own party. Casey Carpenter up in Dalton had House Bill 120 that would allow DACA students or dreamers who were brought here by their parents, so they had nothing to do with the activity, but they're here, but they have to pay out-of-state tuition to our colleges. So he had a bill that said, as long as there's room, they're not taking spots away from other students, that they would get an opportunity at college at the regular in-state, since they are in-state. But, well, we didn't get that one either. So those were probably the 2 big that people were kind of anxious on that did not come to us.
Okay. Well, the big story, of course, is the session, a series of bills proposed on voting restrictions that will be considered in the final days of the session. And the big bill includes bills to end no excuse absentee voting and limit weekend voting. Explain what no excuse absentee voting is for those listening.
Yeah, and I'm glad you brought that up, because that is a tricky one. And in fact, so the House version does not have that in there. And the Speaker, the Governor, and Lieutenant Governor have all said, we are not going to get rid of that. And even though in most Republican circles, they want us to get rid of, but let me tell you the tricky politics of that. Forget the policy. The policy is to only get an absentee ballot like we did back in the day when you were out of town or had a medical reason for not voting. But that was before we had 4 weeks or 8 weeks of early voting. We're trying to get down to 4 weeks. So you've got an entire month to vote. But here's why we can't do that politically. In fact, this was a very interesting inside baseball game that took place in the Senate. So the House bill never had no excuse voting in there, because it was a measure passed by Republicans back in 2005 when the Republicans dominated the House, the Senate, and governorship. So watch this. So in the Senate bill, there is to do away with no excuse absentee ballot. So a Republican senator from Henry County made a motion in committee to strike that from the bill. Now, there was half a dozen Democrats on that committee, or at least enough. There were Democrats on that committee, and they were waiting. I don't know who outplayed who, but he could not get a second. And they just knew the Dems, who'd been screaming to get rid of this, would second that motion because it was going to take it out of the bill, right? Well, they didn't do it. And here's why. They wanted to bait us into a trap to, if we leave that in, that is going to destroy everything we've done on the elections bill, because as soon as it gets to a federal judge, it will strike the bill down as voter suppression. And here's why. Because they're going to say when Republicans were dominating in the state, Republicans are the ones that passed no excuse absentee ballot request. And now that the state has turned purple, and some people think blue, now you're wanting to get rid of it. Well, once you give the federal court a can opener into the bill, then it leaves everything else suspect. So that's why we don't need to get rid of it. And from a logistical standpoint, it's dumb. If an employee calls in to, let's say, and that's why as an employer, I never had sick days. I just said, look, I'm going to give you 10 days throughout the year that you can take. I don't care if you're sick in bed or at Six Flags. What does it matter to me? You're not at work. Why, if you want to take your kids to Six Flags, why am I forcing you to, or tempting you to lie to say you're sick? You see what I'm saying? How are you going to prove it? Like if someone says, I need an absentee ballot, I'm going to be out of town. Well, what's the proof? Are we going to have law enforcement going to everybody's house to see if they're in town or not? It's just a dumb discussion to have. So leave it in there. Go on to the other 13, 16 measures we have on the bill, and let's pass a good bill.
I think they said 12 bills survived Monday's deadline. So I ask you all the time, put your crystal ball on it. How many of those 12 bills do you think we'll see being passed and signed into law? You have any idea?
There will only be one bill passed, and here's why. It will be an omnibus bill. So the House has an omnibus bill, the Senate has an omnibus bill, and then the Senate has a dozen standalone bills. Those will all 15, 16 of those will get morphed into a bill, probably sine die or, day 38, 39, 40, in a conference committee by three high-ranking Republican senators and three high-ranking Republican House members, hand-selected by the Speaker of the House and the Lieutenant Governor. They will take all those bills and morph them into one, bring them back to both chambers. We'll pass them out. They will pass. It doesn't take much of a crystal ball to tell you they will pass. The governor will sign it, and we'll have an elections reform bill.
If you just joining us, Bill Werkheiser on the phone with us. First time we had a chance to talk to you since the budget passed. We talked to both Stephen Meeks and Blake Tillery. Blake worked on the budget, but a lot of people happy with the proposed budget. The school systems and school boards seem to be happy because a lot of those austerity cuts are being put back in. They were cut out due to the pandemic, but our Board of Education seems to be excited that a lot of those cuts are being put back into the budget. So your thoughts on the budget?
Yeah, and not a lot of surprise there. As you know, we've gone through a couple of years, and speaking of crystal balls, how about the governor 2 years ago when the economy was on fire and there was no COVID, saying the leading indicators are looking kind of rough. We're going to tell all the agencies to cut their budget 10%. And lo and behold, 6 months later, we have COVID. So we kind of got prepped for that. And so this budget, and I think Stephen talked about it, we basically restored about 60%. And so it wasn't as difficult a process as I've seen in some of the other years we basically went through all the agencies and tried to give them as much of the cut. Most of them around 60% back to their budget. So, and then in the new budget, like 90% of all new money is going to education and health and human services. So, and thanks to our local school boards who've done a good job with their money, they were able to survive on some, what we would call them a state level or rainy day fund or savings account or whatever. So, and then plus with the CARES Act that was funneled down through the state, we weren't hurt that bad in education all the way down to a local level.
No, they put that $10 million in for broadband for the rural areas. I'm just curious, once they approve that money, how quickly will that take place? Is that going to be a long, drawn-out process, or will that be done quickly?
I don't think so, especially at the state level. We seem to move stuff faster than on the federal level, and depending on how shovel-ready the project is, I think it can move quickly, but because the money was only put in or projected to put in, just a month ago, these companies are gearing up. And I like the way Senator Tillery explained it, sort of like a Shark Tank method, is they come to a state instead of just doling out money. And I like the idea. They come before a commission and say, look, we've got a project. Here's the match we would like. Here's the number of homes we can serve. And so after hearing several proposals, they'll dole out the money to the folks who need the lowest match and who can serve the most homes. So I think you could, start seeing things within the year. So, but that's a guess. And again, it depends on the companies, because it's not like there was a project out there waiting and they said, hey, here's $10 million, go do it. So we're kind of waiting on the players.
Another big story this week, a story a lot of people in this area are following, the citizens arrest law. Saw where they voted unanimously to revamp that. The governor's been pushing that ever since the shooting death of Ahmaud Arbery. So tell us about that. It's only been in one chamber. It's supposed to go to the other chamber. Do you think it'll be a unanimous vote in the other chamber as well?
Probably, unless people fall prey to some of the silly arguments I'm now seeing online of what it doesn't do. What it does do is it gets rid of a bill from the 1800s when there wasn't, when law enforcement had to get to you on horseback. And so, and it was during the period of slavery, and it was used mostly and put in place because of runaway slaves. That's not an issue, and law enforcement is a 911 call away. Citizens going after other citizens with weapons, you're just asking for trouble. We need to let law enforcement, do their job. There are, and so I saw some silly arguments like the recent episode of somebody with a concealed weapon stopping a robbery at a Chick-fil-A, and they said, well, this new law, y'all stripped citizens. No, it didn't. There are so many exceptions to it. Like if, number one, the stand your ground or home domain or whatever you want to call it, if someone comes into your house, you can use up to deadly force to protect your property. What you can't do, and this is a change, if you see someone carrying out a TV from your neighbor's house, you cannot run after them for a couple of reasons. You don't know what's going on. They may have sold that TV the day before at a garage sale and left it in their carport. You just don't know, okay? And so, and again, you can call law enforcement. You can go take a picture of their tag. There are plenty of ways to resolve that situation without you becoming involved. Now, there's also the shopkeepers carve out, which means if you see if a shopkeeper has merchandise being taken in. We gave them up to a solid hour. And again, it's meant police are usually a minutes away, no matter what part zip code you have. So you can detain somebody up to an hour there. And then most of the big stores have, of course, Target, Walmart, they've got their own, got a sophisticated name, inventory, surveillance, security. It's basically security guards. So, and then if someone so let's say your neighbor, there's a woman that is screaming and there's a guy inside. Again, if you can prove, and here's where the law, it says reasonable, and that's left in there for a purpose. Some of this is left up to a judge. If there is reasonable and imminent danger, you have a right to protect your property and someone else's life, but not the other person's property. You see the distinction? Like, we don't want people getting killed over a TV set. But if your neighbor is in imminent danger and being threatened with a weapon, or you can intervene. So the law really it does get rid of the excuse like what was used in the Albury case, and the reality is using citizen's arrest was not the problem in that case. The problem was law enforcement and then all the other circus of events. So, but it did bring the light to get rid of it. And Butch and Bob, interestingly enough, every state has a citizen's arrest law, but Georgia is going to be, we're the first state. Of course, we hadn't passed it yet, but we'll be the first state to get rid of their citizen's arrest.
All right, I read that the other day. All 50 states have a citizen's arrest law on the books. Georgia will be the first one to do away with it if it does, in fact, pass. So what else is going on? We ask you all the time, a lot of constituents are calling and emailing you with their concerns. What's on the mind of the voters? What have you hear when you're up there in Atlanta?
Well, most of the bills that we've talked about in the House, I guess we've gotten rid of. In fact, I tried to look this morning to see what bills are sent, and they didn't even have a rules calendar printed yet. So I don't know. I think we've only got about 5 or 7 Senate bills. So basically, the emails that Senator Tillery's been getting, we'll get his emails, and he'll get ours about the bills that are coming our way. So I can't think of any, because like I said, most of the big ticket items like the betting app, the casino, those issues are dead. There was a bill in the Senate. Well, speaking of bills that didn't come up, there was a bill in the House and the Senate that increased our pay. We've been getting $17,000 since the early 1990s. There was a bill to adjust that, but you can imagine the political backlash. So it was voted overwhelmingly down the Senate, so the House didn't even bring their version up. So it is a shame. I will tell you this, because if you had done even like a 3% inflation rate over all those 30 years, we would be at around $56,000. And we had a nonpartisan commission come up with a recommendation of $41,000, and then we dropped it another 20% down to $30,000. And then I thought the best part, it finally recognized the difference in the rural legislators versus the metro. They get to go home every night. The 3 of us have to, out of that, pay for housing up here. And then even though our per diem is the same as the folks that get to go home every night. But anyway, all that failed, and I don't know if it'll ever pass. And I'm okay with it, but it goes back to the saying, the only way to, because we're one of the lowest paid in the country, is that when you do that, you eliminate a lot of people's opportunity to run for office, because you either have to be fairly well off, have a spouse that's got a high-paying job, or be poor.
Did you pass something like that could go in effect, let's say, after the next elections or something like that, so you're not actually voting for yourself?
Yeah, so the bill, both versions said that it would not take place until 2023, which means you would have to stand for an election so that you didn't benefit from the bill while you're in office, and you would have to stand for re-election. But so many people thought, nowadays, every time you take a vote or do something, you're thinking, is this going to be a postcard headline against just so that.
Everybody wants a raise for themselves, but not for anyone else, right?
So
not quite, but
anyway, I
can understand the political consequences of that.
I would have voted no against it, but it is a good argument about. Because that means in another 30 years, it's still going to be $17,000 when minimum wage is, say $30 an hour. So I don't know how you change it. It's going to be tough.
Okay. Well, again, we always enjoy talking to you on Wednesdays. Stay safe in Atlanta. What's the weather like in Atlanta? Is it getting any better?
Very nice. The last couple of days have been great. Now, see y'all finally, the rain finally stopped, huh?
Yeah, we've got a week of sunshine this week, so things are drying out. Farmers are able to get in their fields and without going up to the axles on the tractors and other implements. And so it's going to be a gorgeous week this week in southeast Georgia as things kind of dry out a little bit.
Yeah, speaking of, Stephen Meeks got a bill passed yesterday or Monday having to do with tractors on the road and right of way. And so ask him about that. I think he's had 2 bills get passed this session.
Well, good. We'll look forward to asking him next Monday with Meeks on his tractors on the road bill.
Yeah. All right. Well, I appreciate y'all, and we will talk to y'all next Wednesday.
Okay. Take care, Bill.
All right. Thank you.
All right. State Senator Bill Werkheiser here on Big Dog Country Radio, WIFO 105.5 FM in Jessup. World famous Butch and Bob Show for this Wednesday morning. And, Bob, it's just great that these guys are able to take out the time of their day to be able to talk to us and to inform our listeners about what's going on in the legislative session there in Atlanta.
Yeah, without a doubt. Like I said, they've got all the knowledge. They know more what's going on than we do. So appreciate them calling in and informing everybody what's happening. A lot going on in the legislature. Just winding it down. The 31st is the last day.
Yep. All right, you're listening to Big Dog Country Radio, WIFO 105.5 FM in Jessup. We did get a text message in. It said, just wanted to let you know that JV baseball team won 15-8 over Glenn Academy last night. Okay.
I got a 7-6 score. So.
Well, it says the score announced this morning was actually the score of the 9th grade game.
No, that was the 9th grade game.
That was the 9th grade game, the score that you gave. And the JV team won over Glenn. That's great, being Glenn Academy like that. It means some good young talent down there because Glenn Academy always has a good baseball program down there.
So they played 2 games.
So they played 2 games, 9th grade and JV. So the game score you gave was was 9th grade, and the JV won 15-8. So we appreciate that person texting that in to us here. You can always text into us on our regular number at 912-427-3711, 912-427-3711. All right, what else is going on, Bob? Anything important happened at the school board meeting the other night? I know you weren't able to go to it, but
I wasn't able to go. I had no idea.
You have no idea. You didn't talk to nobody?
Nope.
No one?
No one. Had a ball game. Went home afterwards.
I figured you might have talked to someone since then. I mean, it's been a couple of days. Yeah, the superintendent, school board member, person who takes the minutes. No one?
They sent me the personnel. What more you want?
That's it? Just personnel. So we got personnel. Personnel coming and going. Always this time of year, that's a big thing. You got people retiring, resigning because they're moving out of town. You got ones being reassigned from one school to another. Some are being promoted. It's just a lot goes on this time of year, getting ready for the next school season, which will begin in August, I guess. Usually does.
Let's hope. I would think.
Yeah, you think it'd begin in August sometime, usually around the end of the first week, first or second week, somewhere along there, based on how their calendar is going to look for this next week. I guess the new school superintendents going around, meeting and greeting and learning with Dr. Jay Brinson this month.
That's what they tell us.
That's what you heard?
I did talk to him, and I said he thought it'd be best to give him a couple of weeks to get his feet wet so he'd have more to talk about.
Okay.
Instead of just coming in. And so probably get in touch with him next week. But
okay, so hopefully we'll have the new school superintendent who officially takes over on the 1st of April in the next couple of weeks to talk about what he's learning so far and his thoughts and feelings and plans for the school system here in Wayne County as he begins his reign in August.
We'll get Jay in here before he walks out the door and get him for his last interview as superintendent. So
last interview as superintendent. He's just so young. But I guess he put his 30 years in, so time to move on.
I'm sure he's looking forward to it.
Yeah, well, it'll be interesting to see. I know a lot of teachers who have put you work from basically you graduate college at 22 years old, 22, 23, somewhere in that area. And then you work for the 30 years. And so that's 30, 40, 50. You're in your early 50s to mid 50s. And they retire. And they go do something else. Many of them do that because they've been doing the same thing for about 30 years. So time to move on to something else for a lot of them feel that way.
A lot come back and work for that 49%.
Yeah, retiring. You don't have to retire. I mean, you can continue to work on and continue to earn that full pay. But some of them will retire, get the retirement, and then come back and work for the 49%.
All right. See a lot of that.
See a lot of that. All right. And continue to get that. I don't know. Do retired teachers continue to get their insurance? That's a big thing these days is insurance when it comes to employment for folks. You know, what kind of benefits you got? You can pay my insurance, and so they do have a good insurance plan with the school system. So I'm not sure if they continue on with that or not. But Wayne County varsity baseball team won last night 4-0. Back in action with another border war tomorrow. Is that correct?
What's today?
Or is it Friday?
Friday. I was going to say not tomorrow. Friday.
Not tomorrow, but Friday. So they get today off and tomorrow off, and then they're back on Friday.
7:00 in Baxley. Baxley beat Ware yesterday 4-1. So they beat one of our region opponents. So should be a good ball game. Always is a good ball game we play. So looking forward to it.
Yeah, no matter what sport it is, when you get Wayne County and Appleton County playing each other in sports in many of the schools. It's always a battle. Always a battle. All right. What else is going on, Bob? Anything else on your mind this morning? We got just a few more seconds. Anything at all?
I got nothing.
Bob has nothing.
It's time for breakfast.
Is it time for breakfast, Bob?
Yeah. As Coach Cotton would say.
It's time to go put some grub in your tub, huh?
Yep. That's the time of the day.
All right, go put some grub in your tub, Bob. All right, world famous Butch and Bob Show here on Big Dog Country Radio, WIFO 105.5 FM in Jessup. Brought to you by O'Quinn & Associates Country Financial, Damon's Famous Fingers and Wings, First Southern Bank, and Murphy Builder Supply.
The world famous Butch and Bob Show.